Okay, so we are super excited to welcome on comedian and host of both the Don't Take Bullshit from Fuckers and Well Actually podcasts, Kane Holloway. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. How's it going, everyone?
Dude, awesome, man.
It's going better now.
Yeah? Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, we're so excited to have you on, and you're a really funny comedian.
Thank you very much.
And your podcast, well, the one I listen to more because I'm not a nerd.
You're not
I'm
a nerd.
into both of them, yes.
You're not a nerd?
No, you said you're not a nerd. You're not a nerd about anything?
No, I'm not nerdy.
There's nothing about you that people go, oh my God, if we get trapped in a room with her, she's going to talk about this thing nonstop, incessantly. Like, this is her thing. You don't have that about you?
I know what that is about her.
What?
Attachment theory.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, okay, that's true. I'm like a relationship nerd.
Yeah.
Like all things like, oh, yeah. Okay, you're right. I'm a sucker for like personality tests and like attachment theory and zodiac signs and okay.
And Enneagram,
Myers-Briggs, love languages, all of that.
Perfect. So yeah, we could have you on the show for that. We could do exactly that. So you're a nerd about that. Like, it's not just about being a nerd is not just about like Star Trek or comic books or anything. Like, I started the show back in the day where I wanted to do something different. So like, you could, like, my original co-host was like a dude who read a lot. So he knew a lot about literature. So I was like, all right, we'll do an episode like about the Ghostbusters, and then we'll do an episode about this book called Educated. And like, that's what the original idea of the show, the conceit of the show was. Yeah.
Okay. I guess maybe what I listened to was like the Star Trek kind of like comic book. Yeah. Which it's funny because I always date those types of people. Like, always. Really? Like, I was married to like super nerdy. Like, he would spend like 8 hours a day watching people play League of Legends.
That's nerdy. I would never do that.
I know, that's very nerdy. And then my most recent ex was way into like Marvel and video games and all that. We talked about this actually on our last episode. He had posters. Like, he was, really? Had posters on his wall of those things. And yeah. So I just go for the nerds. I really do.
Hey.
Yeah. You're nerdy?
Yeah, sure. About a lot of weird stuff.
What's the video game that you've been playing recently?
Oh no, you're really gonna out me in front of Kane. Kane, I was so nerdy as a kid. I played Magic the Gathering. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And now I found out they have like a iPhone app where you basically can play Magic the Gathering on your phone, and like for that. Sure. I'm coming out of that deep rabbit hole. And it was like about a 2 months where I was like playing like an hour a day, and then I might have a couple weekends ago watched Twitch streams of the Magic the Gathering like World Championships that happened.
Yeah, dude, but if you love it, then that's you can't let anybody. I mean, I was nerdy growing up. I remember I remember when I was a kid, I had a Batman and Robin t-shirt. I was like in 5th grade, and I kept getting made fun of for wearing the shirt, and I felt really bad. And then I like told a friend about it, and he goes, "We're in 5th grade. What are we supposed to like?" Like, we're supposed to like Batman. Like, that kid's just being an asshole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
it gave me like a whole new perspective on it gave me a lot more confidence. Like, yeah, this is what I like. So fuck off, Ace. Yeah. And that is his real name.
His name was Ace?
His name was, but actually that was his middle name. And he didn't, whatever his fucking dumb first name was, I still hold a grudge over Ace.
Yeah, we could tell. This is like, you need to deal with this.
It was actually probably some like shitty nerdy name, like Melvin or something.
It probably
like that,
was
right?
Dumbass Melvin. Yeah. And he was like, I'm Ace. And then because of that, I thought Kane was dumb because I got made fun of my name. I always got made fun of for my name. So I tried to come to school with my middle name, which was Matthew. And I'm like, I'm Matt now. And everyone's like, we're not calling you Matt. You're not Matt. That's not happening.
There's like the person who tries to like have their own nickname, like be like, okay, everybody call me this. And it's like, no,
never works.
Right?
It never works.
And the best way to make a nickname stick is to let your friends know that you hate it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like every one of my friends in college who were like, look, just can you guys please stop calling me that? Like we still call them that. Like those are the only nicknames that stuck.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, my nickname was Waffle because my maiden name is Walthall.
Oh.
And so I got called Waffle.
Waffle. I actually like that.
Yeah, it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Well, Kane, tell us about yourself. Like how did you get into comedy? How did you start the podcast? Like, what were the timelines of all of that?
Well, I wanted to be a comic since I was a kid. I watched Brian Regan's Comedy Central special when I was like 12 years old. And then ever since then, I sort of had a passion to do it. And then I tried to do it at a Borders Books open mic where I bombed and ran. I lived like 30 minutes from that Borders Books, or like a 10-minute drive. And I bombed so hard that I ran home in the dark.
How old are you?
I was 17.
Oh, that's so sweet and sad.
Wait, what like town was this Borders Books in? Because I'm trying to like place where you grew up to.
Puyallup, Washington. So I'm from Seattle.
Okay.
And I grew up in Seattle, and I invited all my friends, and they came, and I invited like 3 friends, and then they told everybody. So then the whole school rolled in to see me eat shit for 5 minutes. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to stick around to watch people try to find something good about what just happened. And I, in a weird panic, just started running home, like Forrest, like in Forrest Gump when he just like gets up and starts running. That's what it was like for me. I just started running.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And then I just started, I did an open mic when I was like 22 at Giggles Comedy Club in Seattle with a buddy of mine. And then I bombed again, but it was different. Like it was in a club, and comics were talking to me afterwards, telling me like, oh, I like this like premise, and sort of started helping me with the joke. And I'm like, all right, well, this is different. This feels different. And so after that, I just never looked back. And then I moved to LA after a few years of doing it with my now ex-wife. And then she ended up doing a podcast with Greg Barrett, who wrote He's Just Not That Into You. Mm-hmm. And then I was quitting drinking, and I needed some guidance, and he's been sober for like 11 years or something like that. So then she introduced Greg and I, and we got coffee, and we started talking about sobriety. And then eventually we just became buddies. And then he was getting into life coaching, and he was like, hey man, I have an idea for a show where we help people not take bullshit from fuckers. I want to call it Don't Take Bullshit from Fuckers. And I think you're funny. Do you want to come on and be my co-host? And I said, yeah. And then we've been doing it now for over 100 episodes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, and then the nerd show comes from a joke I do about actually people who you'll be talking about whatever, and then they butt in. They're like, well, actually, and then they have to ruin the conversation with their facts, and they think they're better than you. Yeah,
that's like I listened to John Hodgman's podcast, and he always like calls out people for being pedants. Like pedantry is like actually it's the some like technicality just to, and you're just saying it to like show that you're smart.
Yeah.
You like you might as well be saying like, well, actually, I'm very smart.
Yeah,
so just putting that out there for everyone.
Yeah, I know better than you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that brings me to now.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. And do you live in LA still?
I'm heading back to LA. I'm in Seattle right now. My sister's about to have her 3rd baby. And so I figured I'll just stick around for the holidays, meet the new kid, and then head on back down to LA.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So since Leanna is a relationship theory nerd, we do a lot of like deep diving into like dating and love and relationships. So can we like go deep on some of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what experiences or like aspects of like your early life do you feel like shaped how you approach and show up in relationships?
Um,
Oh, that was like really deep.
Let's go.
Really fast.
Let's go.
Hey,
He's
everybody.
a deep nerd. He's a deep nerd.
What a funny, like, hey, yeah, so I started doing comedy when I was 17, and that really shaped my emotions. Guess we're in the middle of it now. Yeah. You know, I think about my childhood a lot, and that sort of, whether you're aware of it or not, it just shapes who you find yourself attracted to, who you sort of move in on. And knowing that about myself, I find that whenever I enter into a relation now, more before, when I was like in my 20s, like if you were sort of really funny and mean and aggressive, and I really like that. And then over time that became sort of a toxic relationship. And still to this day, I'm like, oh, I like you. You're going to be a lot of trouble if I continue to talk to you. And so that, like sort of to mine a lot of being comfortable around, not abuse, but being comfortable around that type of aggressive needing to clamor for their approval or their attention became something I became sort of painfully aware of about myself in my late 20s, realizing like I need more self-worth. Like I think very highly of myself to the degree that I do stand up. Like I have a heightened sense of myself that I can go on stage and talk to a bunch of people and make them all feel one emotion collectively, which feels very powerful and wonderful. And then when I get into my relationship, it's like, oh, I'm trying to vie for your attention and your admiration. And so moving forward with that, the more I register things like that in a person, it's so funny. When I started, like, I got out of my marriage and then I started dating, I could see it in dates. Like I could see it when I was on dates with girls. I could be like, oh, no, I feel the way you talk about yourself, and how I could already see 3 years into the relationship.
Like, can you give more details of that? Like, what is it about how they talk about themselves?
Just there's this like there was this unearned sense of themselves in a relationship. Like I went on a date with this girl who had like just told me she usually has all the control in the relationship. Like she's just very much like this is how it goes, this is where it goes, this is how we usually am. And then made a point to say, I don't usually date guys like you. I'm the one who needs the attention. Like I don't, and I usually don't, I'm the funny one, or I'm the, and I could see it all.
Yeah, you can kind of see like the power struggle or whatever, the like push pull that would be happening there. Yeah.
Or more so that you wanted that, like you wanted someone to kind of like control you, but then maybe you find out that you don't. Is that kind of what it is?
Well, it was like I initially liking the idea of some like a woman who's very, very, very quick-witted and funny, but also is like quick to roast, quick to being mean around, like not just to me, but anybody, it's like, it's fun to sit around and there's a old David Tell joke that he says, have you ever made fun of somebody so much you feel like you need to thank them for all the good times you've had? So like that kind of feeling, there's like that bond where you both can be kind of shitty, and using that as like and then when you don't have anyone around you to be shitty to, you're shitty to each other. And the roasts feel a lot more personal, and they feel a lot more like, oh, like I know you and I know you so well, and so here's all these things I know that are gonna push you to a sort of breaking point, and then it's like
really hurt. Yeah.
And then you get into these really high highs, and then those go away, and then the lows are so low that you're just like, I'm struggling to even understand why we're in this relationship. And then when you get to that breaking point where you're like, oh, I think we might break up, I think this is the end, oh, we'll go back up now, let's go back up.
Yeah.
And we'll be great, remember, this is why we're together, it's so great. And you just do that.
Yeah, I there's like three things I really relate to in what you're saying. One of them is like this kind of like, I call them like rubber band relationship dynamics. Like I had that a ton in my 20s, where we kind of like pull apart or have some big fight, and then you like smash into each other again, and that's like the big like intense like emotional high or whatever. This second thing is like, I'm also drawn to women who are like strong and tough and like speak their mind. And for me, I think there's like two things in that. One is like, is the like ego boost from like winning over the woman that's tough to win over. You know what I'm saying? And then the second piece is like, I was actually talking to my therapist about this like pretty recently, is that like, I don't like when people are like super polite and careful with me, because I'm like, oh, now I have to have the kid gloves on too. I'm like, you know, like I would rather have someone be a little bit real and a little bit abrasive with me, because then I'm like, oh, like I can relax and just be myself too. Like we're not going to get so careful and so sensitive or whatever. Like that actually helps me feel like there's more freedom to be myself in the relationship. Does that make sense?
Well, to be fair, Jared also likes mean women.
Yeah. They're so fun. They're fun people.
Well, and I think for me though, and I don't know if this is true for you, Kane, but for me, part of that is like, the worst moment in relationships is like, oh, this really sweet girl really, really likes me, and I'm like, and then I feel like the worst person in the world.
Yeah. There's a level of boredom you reach, and you're like, oh man. My friend Natasha talks about this. She's a author, and she's like almost like a fuckboy sponge, and just loved having to earn. And she's beautiful, and she's really intelligent, and fucking just one of the sweetest people I've ever met, and just loved the worst guys for her, and started seeing the guy she's with now. She's like, I wouldn't have looked at him. I wouldn't have even looked twice at him. But she's had to train herself to be attracted to what's good for her instead of what's bad for her.
I almost DM'd you before this, but then I was like, I don't want to give him too much homework. Do you know what your attachment style is?
No, I don't think that I do. I know that I feel like I can be, I don't know, there's a lot of different things that I work on. I don't know right away what different attachment styles are.
Okay, so there's like, I mean, we don't have to like psychoanalyze you right now, but like there's basically just 4 different types, and it's all based on how your early relationships, like most of it your first 2 years of your life. But there's like secure, so this is the person that can show up and communicate effectively and have really calm conversations and can get feedback and then like talk it over and like feel secure and is confident in the relationship, and you know, like can handle things
and like, can tolerate when there's like more distance or when there is like closeness
or some neediness. They can handle it well. And then there's anxious, which is like this person is like the needy person and kind of the stage 5 clinger, and stage 5 or stage 4,
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Stage 3.
Five works. 5 is usually it.
And they get really anxious if they're not getting a text back, or if the partner like feels distant. And then there's avoidant, which is like they fear intimacy so much that they do avoid and they kind of pull back and they need lots of space. And And then there's disorganized, which is like a mix of anxious and avoidant. And that person, disorganized, is like the lesser of the population because they probably experienced abuse as like a child. So I don't know, like, can you kind of like guess based on that?
Well, I mean, I don't shy away from intimacy. So it's hard to say, but I guess when it comes to arguments early in my life, I was a little more avoidant, especially if it was my fault. You know, I had a hard time. I had a hard time in my 20s really seeing my fault in things. And now in arguments, I feel like I need to really sort of talk out. I'm realizing like the same thing when it comes to sex and fighting are very similar. You can't use the same techniques on different people. You have to learn to fucking fight with different people, how they like to fucking fight. And
I love that. Yeah.
And so, you know, now I may be putting my foot in my mouth a lot of the time when I'm in arguments, but when I'm talking a lot more now than I used to. So now I'm just going, I need to get all my thoughts out. And I need to get as much of this out so I can understand exactly what it is we're fighting about. So I don't want to walk away going like, yeah, you're the problem and I'm good. I would like to see, what did I do? What did I do? And I need to spill it out. And, you know, I don't know. I think, but I'm still learning when it comes to that stuff. So maybe I was avoidant and I'm a little more secure now. I don't think I have anxiety, but I don't think I have anxious attachment style. Like if you got work or whatever, I'm cool with not hearing from you. But if I haven't heard from you in like 3 days, then I'll just be like, yo, dog, are we good? And then if I don't get a text back, it's like, all right, well then we're not good. And I have no qualms with moving on with my like I did it with a friend who, like, I started to notice she had like made me some like non-boyfriend boyfriend. Like I could tell that I wasn't interested in her, but she had I could tell that she's like very touchy-feely and comfortable around me when it's just me and her, but she's like on Raya looking at dates and like showing me pictures of guys she should date while also telling me, oh, I think you're hot and funny or whatever, and like being very over. And so then when it would be my turn to like, yo, you want to come over and discuss my issues or my problems or whatever, all of a sudden she's not around, or she would say, yeah, I'll come over, and then not come over. And just fucking.
So it sounds like she just needed attention.
Yeah. And I blocked her. Like the moment
good for you.
It was like the second time it happened, I was like, if she doesn't come over when she says she's going to come over, and if I don't hear from her, this is done. I'm not dealing with this shit. I don't want you. And I don't want you to think, and I don't want you to think I want you. I don't want you to have this inflated ego where like, well, Kane's got a crush on me. And I'm just like that. I'm the nerdy best friend. This isn't 16 Candles, motherfucker. I have a life too. So you can take this shit on the arches.
I love that. I mean, I think that's actually a very secure thing to do.
Yeah, it feels like really good like boundaries and self-worth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I would do that. I would be like,
you would not do that.
I would be like, when's he gonna text?
You would be like, I mean, it's okay if you can't come over today, but maybe tomorrow.
Can we talk about this? Can we get on the phone? Can we talk about this?
Well, it would seem so disingenuous if I preach on my show, hey, it doesn't matter who they are, don't take bullshit from fuckers, don't let people, especially your time. I mean, there's nothing more important than having someone waste your time. I mean, it's like, who the fuck do you think you're not? It's the same thing when you don't clean your apartment when you bring somebody over. I don't care how hot you think you are. you're not hot enough to have a dirty apartment or waste my goddamn time. It doesn't matter. You could be a supermodel, or whatever. You can have millions of dollars. Don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Now, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Have you always like sort of had that like sense of yourself and like kind of like not putting up with bullshit from people? Or is that something that you like developed? And how?
I developed, oh my God. I was in love. I was a fat kid who was in love with Taryn. I'll just say that her first name.
First of all, I sorry to interrupt you. I like love that you're diving into this, because one of the questions I had for you was tell us the story of your first love. So
Taryn. Well, Allison in kindergarten. I loved her so much. I thought she was the best.
Was Taryn like, did they mean to name her Karen?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just straight up Taryn.
No, Taryn is like a 90s girl.
Oh.
Really?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, Taryn. I was also sort of friend zoned by her, and I was in love with her. She had like these big, beautiful blue eyes, and she was athletic, and she was also sort of mean. And she was so mean. She was she was so funny and so mean, and I loved to roast people with her. That's like how I feel like I bond with people. I mean, as a comic, that's just what we're like. We have a hard time showing emotion a lot of the time, and so the only way we do that is to make fun of each other, and that's how you know you've bonded with somebody. And so but Taryn, I remember I was big old fat kid, and Taryn made a sex list. This was in high school, and she was like got boys that she would have sex with in our class, and I wasn't on it. And she saw me, she like saw in my face, I noticed I wasn't on it, but I didn't say anything. I just sat there. I was like, all right, okay. And then she goes, she goes, oh, well, the reason, Kane, that you're not on it is because, and then she looked me up and down and then said, you're like a brother to me. And I wanted to headbutt a knife. I hated it so much. And now I hate when I hear that. Anytime I hear Kane's like a brother to me. No, I'm not. Okay. I have a sister. Slow your roll, dog. If you're not attracted to me, that's fine. If you want to just be friends, I'm cool with that. I have a lot of girlfriends. But I'm not like your brother.
Yeah.
And
that's like very traumatic, like the first person you loved and like gives you that type of like, so do you feel like from that point on, you were like, I am now going to find the same type of person and I'm going to prove to myself that they will love me back and they will desire me, because that's going to heal all of that?
Yeah, sort of. It's, you just sort of, I mean, my dad also shaped a lot of the way that I felt about myself. My dad was not a very nice person, and he was abusive, and he was a nightmare, and he was somebody I had to earn a lot of his love all the time. And so I brought that into my adult life, and sort of a combination of doing stand-up, and like doing stand-up, you get a sense of worth. You get a sense of an understanding about yourself, because you're always thinking about what your point of view is. Mm-hmm. So then you got to tell that to people. And then if they laugh, then your point of view feels good and right. And if they don't laugh, then you feel like an asshole. Mm-hmm. And so it's about like we always call it like the puzzle of a joke. And like trying to this is funny, it's just not funny yet. And sometimes it's changing one word that clicks, and then now it's funny and poignant or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I told my dad he could go fuck himself, and then that sort of changed. I was like able to like conquer that monster. It was like I took down Godzilla.
Yeah.
We were on the phone and we were having one of our many drag out fights where then I would have to go, because he would play victim. Like he was, but when I was a kid, he was this big looming presence. So if I wasn't listening, or if I finally I wasn't taking in his words and they didn't mean anything to me anymore, he would just smack me around. But now he can't do that because I'm an adult and he's not, we're not around each other like that anymore. So the only way now he knows how to get that from me is to play victim. So, all right, well, now I'm hurt by what you said. You need to come and apologize. And I just was sitting on the phone and I said some remark about having a shit childhood. And he said, oh yeah, I was the worst father. And I just snapped. And I said, yeah, you fucking were. Fuck you. And then, and I told him I never wanted to talk to him again. And I hung up the phone, and that was, I don't know, like 4 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I just sort of started to slowly over time think about what I will and won't put up with. What, and I don't have a full understanding of it. Nobody ever really will. It's the same. I can't remember what philosopher said it, but a wise man knows that a wise man knows nothing. You can never really know yourself. You can never really know everything. But what I can do is collectively try to have a better understanding about where I will set a boundary and what's worth fighting for. I think a very important question everyone needs to ask themselves is, are you fighting to be heard and win, or are you fighting to make this relationship a little more cohesive so you understand each other better? Because if you're trying to fight to win, then it's not a partnership, you're adversaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love all of that. Like,
I know.
And also like how empowering that you had that moment with your father of just being like, you know what, you're no longer like gonna control like how I feel about myself. Like, this is who I am. Fuck off, get out of my life. And like, that was that like, well, I don't know. I mean, that was just like a huge boundary that you set. That sounds like it like went like rolled into more and more boundaries with people.
Yeah. I started to, he wanted me to be so many things, and I just like could never live up to it. And then I would date women that would sort of box me into the same kind of concept. It's like, well, I want you to be this. Can you do that? Or can you do this or whatever? And so, it was a great feeling to realize like, oh, especially with the cult, there's like an idea of like the cult of family. I feel that I want to help people break their concept of, because people always will write into the show about family fuckers that they have to deal with. And it's like, they're my brother or they're my sister or whatever. They're my dad, they're my mom. So I have to love them. And it's like, no, you don't. Actually, family, and just like a romantic partner, they have to earn your love and respect. You don't just give your love and respect to some stranger you meet at a bar. You don't just roll up and like, you're the one, because they have to figure you out and learn who you are, and then you have to have this mutual respect. And if you don't have that in either your romantic relationship or your familiar or whatever, friends, the same thing, any of it, if there's at any point you're being drained emotionally and you're putting in all this work, I don't give a fuck if it's your grandpa who raised you. That guy's being a piece of shit, and you need to and you don't have to cut him off like I did. You can work through it, but you need to have a full understanding of, again, what you will or will not take.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's so important. Like, so I had a really similar experience growing up.
You guys are like kind of like weirdly the same person.
It's really weird.
It's like, when you come back to LA, we'll have to meet for like coffee or something, and I'm pretty sure I'll just be like over in the corner and you guys will just be like spitting back and forth. Yeah.
Well, because like I had a scary dad. There was abuse in my home and lots of like fighting and violence and stuff like that. And and then my parents got divorced when I was 14 or 15, and then my dad was like this broken shell of a man who was like
Yo, my dad too, dog. That for real, that exact same thing happened.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just reading around here.
And it like, and you get like the worst of both worlds, where you get like this, there's like the trauma and being afraid and not having self-worth. Mm-hmm. And then there's all this like kind of now in relationships, like this feeling of guilt and responsibility is like terrible and overwhelming, because all of a sudden now, like I had to comfort and take care of my dad, who was like depressed and broken and all of this shit, and like in ways that were like totally inappropriate. I'm like, I'm the fucking kid here. I don't know what the fuck is going on, and I got to take care of you. Like,
yeah. I'm fucking 5, dog. Make me a sandwich. Fucking crying bitch. Shut up.
Well, and like, and I think what's interesting is I think people who grow up in healthy environments, like that sense of self-worth is like nurtured and kind of like always there. And then there's people who grew up like we did, where like you have to now as an adult, like go back and like find it. You have to like find the plug and find the outlet and like plug it in. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you start like being like, fuck off. I don't want you in my life, you know, or just like not wasting your time with people that like aren't going to be good for you. But that's like a journey for people to like get there, you know? And I'm really curious for you, Kane, like, how has your sobriety played into that journey for you?
Well, I had to get sober because I was drinking about all of it. Like I was working it out through booze, and like I just felt a lot of pent up rage and anger, and it just was sitting in there, because normally I'm a very happy person. Like, I was a very happy baby, and I'm a genuinely happy person now, and I was then, but out of nowhere I would just feel this ball of rage and anxiety, and I just like didn't know where it was coming from, and I didn't know where to like put my emotions. And then I got drunk one night, and it all just fucking I just started at a party. Oh, I hate remembering this. Oh, just at a party, sitting on the couch sobbing. And everyone's like, yo, dude, what, do you have cancer? What happened?
Yeah, but like, what did something trigger it? Like, do you even
remember?
No,
I was just sitting there drunk. And I think we were watching Ace Ventura, and I was just like, daddy, you know, and I just started fucking, and then it like wouldn't stop. It just would not stop. I could not stop crying. So I had to recuse myself. And I was like, what was that? But the next morning, I felt so good. It was all out of me. I was like, oh, yes. Thank God. So then anytime I felt that ball hit me again, I was like, oh, I can go get drunk, and then it'll come out, because I couldn't do it sober.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I couldn't cry.
I hate you both.
Well, no, so I can cry sober, but I think for a long time, like, so I don't identify as like being in recovery, but I pretty much stopped drinking like maybe 8 to 12 months ago. And like, to me, it feels amazing. It feels like I got off this roller coaster, you know, like you were talking about that, like emotional roller coaster of like those unhealthy relationships. Like that was my relationship with alcohol. And so like, to me, I was always very functional, but it was like in the past, like 10 years, really, it got more and more where like I would be like leaving, hanging out with friends early. So like I could like really start drinking.
Yeah.
And I would just be like and like I would literally sit out on my porch and drink by myself and smoke cigarettes.
Yep.
And like watch YouTube clips that were either going to make me cry, you know, and like, it was like the way I got like in touch with my emotions and myself and like process my shit.
Dude, I would watch Kevin Costner baseball movies.
Yes. Yeah. Like, yeah, dude, I have such a like long YouTube history of like emotional scenes from movies that I love.
When For the love of the game. Oh my God. when John C. Reilly walks up to Kevin Costner and he starts to know they're in the 9th inning and he's like, yo, am I about to pitch a perfect game? And John C. Reilly is like, we're here for you no matter what. Like the boys are here to play.
Yes.
They're there for you. God.
See, like that, I think that's like slightly more respectable than mine, which is like I have there's like a Rocky and Mickey montage from all the Rocky movies. That one destroys me. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kane.
No, please go ahead. We just talked about sports.
I was just gonna say I can't relate to any of this.
Well, you don't watch clips that intentionally make you cry ever? No.
So I'm actually, what's interesting is like I have recently become more of a crier. Like I also kind of like have this like stoic like outwardness, but I'm very soft and sensitive inside and I get my feelings hurt very easily, but I don't like people seeing that. And because I don't know, I think I just had to like toughen up because my dad was tough and I was the one that got yelled at. And then eventually I just started yelling back and, that's kind of how I dealt with that. But no, like I didn't cry at my wedding. It was so weird. Like I'd watch a movie with my mom and be like, are you crying? And he cries when watching, but recently, and I don't know, I think it's like, I went through a breakup in January and then like had a series of like really unfortunate like events of like a guy, we had sex, we had been dating for a little bit. He was like love bombing me and literally in his bed the next morning told me he was no longer interested in me because we had sex.
Oh, what? In the bed?
In his bed that he asked me to stay in. Like he invited me over. We had 3 other dates. He was like, you're the woman of my dreams. Like, I can't believe I found you. He was also divorced. I'm like, oh, we have this in common, blah, blah, blah. We have sex. It wasn't good. Like, it just wasn't good at all. Right. But like, I was just trying to be like, supportive and like, oh yeah, that was great. Glad I had my vibrator, but like, and then the next morning I'm like laying on his chest and he was like, he was weird. And I said, hey, are you okay? And it was basically like, I'm kind of freaking out that you stayed the night. And I said, oh, okay. And then he was like, sometimes when I have sex with someone for the first time, I become disinterested. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you feel that way about me? And he's like, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Whoa. What an animal.
Yeah, that was probably, it was like, it was piercing. It was just piercing because it's brought up all of my insecurities.
Of course.
So like I got up, left, was crying. And then after that, like immediately went back on the apps, met another douchey guy, and then took like some time off. And then I met a douchey guy in August. And then I got ghosted, the episode you listened to. Like same thing. He just kind of love bombed me and then like just booked it, which is probably good because he wasn't vaccinated, but
yeah, that's yeah, for sure.
And so just recently I've just been crying at everything. Like someone sent me a picture of a cat and I just started crying. Like the floodgates have opened.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, now I'm a lot more emotional now that I'm sober. I don't know where I was able to, like, they had to go somewhere. And so that ball of anger is not really there anymore. It's more of just like a little bit of anxiety will hit me. And I'm like, all right, I'm anxious about something and I need to figure out what it is. So I'll do some writing and I'll try and talk it out with somebody. I'll call somebody and be like, I'm anxious. I don't know what's going on. I think I need to, can I bend your ear for a second? And so then I try my best to talk it out as much as possible. And I usually have a bunch of comic friends who are also sober. So I do it with them. And then I'll get off the phone and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to cry. And it just starts coming out of me. And it's just like it's so much better to live that way now. I can't go back to bottling it up I'll die. I mean, I'll wilt away.
Yeah.
Because if I become someone I don't want to be around anymore. Like I just don't, like I just would spend days just being just so up my own ass, thinking that the world owes me, but it's against me at the same time. And so, it's like, and then that living in that victimhood, I started to recognize things about my dad where it's like, you try to tell him your plight, and then he comes back with, you didn't have it so bad because when I blah, blah, blah. And it's, and you hear that a lot with people who treat people like shit. And then when they're told, hey, you're treating me like shit, it's like, well, I was treated like shit. It's like, well, okay, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you were treated. You're treating me like shit. So come to grips with it.
Own it. Own your own shit.
Figure it out, because your inability to process is making me feel insane. So I need you to stop being a victim now and figure it out. I'm sorry what happened to you, but if you want to have a relationship with me, you need to figure out what triggers you so you stop treating me like dog shit. And so I have no sympathy for people who say, well, I had it, that who didn't.
Yeah.
Name a person. They had it bad too.
Yeah. And it's like, it's good to have compassion. It's like, yeah, you're a fucker because awful things happen to you, but like, that's not my fault. And then what to do with that is now your responsibility. And so if you're a fucker and do awful things to other people, like that's not, you're still accountable for that shit.
Yeah. I like villains who that's their, like in a movie, like a villain who has that story where it's like, well, what happened to me is the reason why I'm a murderer or whatever. And that's what I like about the Joker, is just like the Joker's like, here's two sob stories. They may or may not be honest or true or whatever, but really inherently it's like, this is just how I feel. Like that's what makes him a compelling villain. But I immediately fall off in a movie for a villain who's just like, well, I was treated like shit. And I just go, boring. I don't give a fuck now.
Yeah.
That's well, and what I was gonna say too, to your point, Leanna, and like all of us talking about how we cry now, like I think that's such a gift. Like I feel so lucky, and it sucks that it's like really painful experiences that get you there. That I think like for a lot of people, you build up your like pretty shitty coping mechanisms to deal with the stuff that happened to you, and they work poorly, but they work like through your 20s. And then like as some really tough shit happens in your life, you're like, oh, I need to throw all of this out and like fix some stuff that's like a lot deeper down. And it's like I'm super grateful for the like horrifically painful experiences I've had in the last 10 years of my life that have led to me like crying at random weird shit and like like and like not drinking and like kind of taking care of myself in all these other ways,
Yeah.
Do you do therapy, Kane? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, therapy is a must, I think, for anybody. I always find it funny when people say they don't need it, like they figured it out, because I also said that. I said the exact same thing. I made up a story too when I was like 13 or 14. I made up a story to dispel the idea of therapy to somebody who said they think I need it. And I said, oh, I went to a therapist and they said I don't need to be here. Like I'm so well adjusted that like, oh, you got I was 14 and I had already thought back then, I don't need this shit. And I remember I just went to a therapist and I was like, I don't want to be here, but I feel like I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to spit out everything. And I spent that first hour, she didn't talk once. She didn't give me any advice. I just spit out everything. And then I just like got done. And she was like, all right, well, I'll see you next week. And I was like, yeah, I'll be back. Cause now I need answers.
That's amazing. So, and I know we're running short on time. One of the questions, another kind of deep dive relationship question is, what have you learned about yourself from like a more recent relationship or breakup, or like maybe how have you grown?
Or even from like your divorce, like, which probably was like a much more significant thing.
Well, both are a very significant, because I love both of them very much. And with my last ex, we loved each other and it was great, but we just sort of looked at our situation and was just like, the timing feels off. And there's a lot of pushing towards trying to figure out like if we can make these sort of differences work when we really don't want to. And normally I think in our 20s, one or both of us would have just been like, I'll succeed, I'll succeed, and I'll I'll come here, or I'll do this thing or whatever. And I just remember we were like, and I said it on the show, it's like, we really love each other, but we also wanted to walk away still liking each other. So we just had to have that tough conversation of like, I just don't think these things are lining up. And because of that, I don't know if it's going to work, right now, and it was a really sweet breakup. Like, it was a really sweet one. We talked for like an hour afterwards, and it just makes you less afraid of having those kind of conversations, because we didn't have these conversations before we made like these big sweeping decisions. And then when we were in it, we realized like, oh, maybe we were moving too fast or something like that. And so with that, we just sort of had a nice grown-up conversation where we ended amicably. And that kind of sucks too, because you still like the person.
Yeah.
And you sit and you think about all the good things, and you're like, oh man, I wish we still had, like, I wish we could just have that still. So that was a nice lesson to learn, that like, yeah, they're going to be uncomfortable conversations, but fuck, they're very important to have. They're very important to have, especially before you make any big decision, decision in a relationship, moving forward with somebody. You have to, otherwise you're living in some sort of obscurity with each other. And then that's a terrible place to be, because the excitement of the relationship, especially within the first year, Greg and I always say on the show, the first year is supposed to be fuck, eat, fuck, sleep. And that's all you're doing is fuck, eat, fuck, sleep. And then after that year, let's have those like big or maybe even before that, like 6 months. But I realized with both my last relationship and my ex-wife that I'm move a lot slower than I have to move a lot slower than I'm used to, because I'm just, I get really excited. I get really excited at the start of a relationship, and I'm like, oh fuck, we get to have all these new experiences, and I'll get to do these new things, and I love learning about. I want to learn about you, and I want to learn what you like, what you don't like, what I can do for you, what gets you excited. That'll get me excited. How do we be the best for each other? And it's like, and then it gets really exciting, and then you're like, oh cool, all right. And with my ex-wife, we moved really fast. We did that, and then it was like 2 months in, we moved in with each other, and then I would say we had a really successful relationship. We were together 8 years off and on. She was with me during my sobriety and all that stuff. But you get together in your 20s and you grow, and you both grow, and you sort of grow. We grew separately rather than together. And then that what's ultimately led to the breakup is we both sort of became different people and were unrecognizable as partners. And that's what eventually ended. And we also ended amicably. Yeah. So like we talk every once in a while too.
That's really great. I want to clarify, by me saying one was more significant, I just meant the length of time. Obviously, obviously, like you can be just as in love or love, you know, someone from a short amount of time, as I've experienced myself. But I think this is it's like really like admirable of you to be able to have. I've never had a relationship in amicably, never. Oh. And I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? And I think that's really great. I think that shows a lot about who you are and who you're picking as partners. And I also want to say, like, in terms of the like moving fast thing, I think there has to be like a balance, because if you look at like, there are some couples who move in within a month, 2 months, and they're together for 30 years. And then there's some couples that wait to move in for 2 years, things slow, blah, blah, blah. They get married and then they're divorced like that. So I don't necessarily think that there has to be like it needs to be healthy for you, whatever that means. But I don't think that there has to be like a specific playbook of how that works out. And I think it's normal to feel like really excited about the person and to want to get to know them. Like that's what our, like chemically our brain like does that, because we're like want to come together and mate and produce children so that our species can keep going, you know? And I think it's just, you know, what we talk about a lot, and from like experts that we've had on, is like, you can go as fast or as slow as you want. Just make sure, like, see if you're both in the same together. And keep like collecting data, learning about the person, like understanding you don't know that person yet. Like, you know, like what are these conversations we need to have? When do we need to have them? Effective communication, all that. And like, I don't know. I guess I just want I want to tell you that it's okay that you went fast. Like, I don't know that, you know, that was like a really long explanation for that. Yeah.
Well, I also think I listened to whatever episode you did where you made a list of things you want in a partner.
Oh yeah, that was the ghosting episode. Yeah.
That, what I liked most about your list is it wasn't like you weren't like molding a person. Like, these are things about you that you would want to be able to have. And it wasn't very long either. And that's what I liked about the list. It was like, the list was like, yo, can you just have these sort of backgrounds and this sort of ideal, and staying firm on that is great. And, you know, it's not like this person, you meet a person and it's like, all right, are you gonna fit into this little list that I made you? Or are you just gonna go, oh shit, he fucking click, and sort of hit all the boxes. And I think that's a really smart idea for anybody who's like, well, how do I find somebody? It's like, well, you know, a lot of times you get into a relationship and you go, well, they don't like this, and they don't want to do this, and they don't believe in this, and they don't want to participate in this. But maybe if I work hard enough, they'll change. There's like a Simpsons episode that I love where Lisa has a crush on Nelson, but he's too much of an abrasive dick for her to like understand why she has a crush on him. So she confides in Marge, and then Marge goes, when I first, a lot of women will say that you can't change a man, but those women are quitters. When I first met your father, he was loud, rude, and piggish. And now, after years, he's a totally different person. And Lisa's like, Mom, and she's like, he's a whole new person, Lisa. She's like, oh yeah, you're right, absolutely.
It's so true though. You just can't go into something expecting to change the person. You either have to decide, okay, I'm going to choose to love this person exactly how they are, or this is not for me. Yeah.
Are two lives going to come together to be to be a whole life that you share together, or are you gonna just be part of their life, and then that's your identity, you know? And I know for me, I don't want to be, not that anybody's ever done this to me, but I don't want to be I don't want to be their life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my life to be, oh, I'm this person's boyfriend, or I'm this person's husband, or whatever. Like, I'm Kane and I do whatever, and I have this I like about me, and also this is my girlfriend, and she has these likes and these things that we share together. This is Taryn, my one true love. Oh, Taryn, if you didn't live on a farm and have 3 children.
That's great. Well, so, and to kind of bring it back around to where we started, Kane, like, you talk a lot about, you know, obviously on DTBFF, you guys are talking a lot about like relationships and family and like how people treat each other. And even in your stand-up, like, you bring in a lot of like relationship stuff and everything like that. So like, how is that for you to kind of like blend that into your work? And like, what are kind of like the pros and cons of that?
Well, a definite con is, I think sometimes people will put, because I do a relationship podcast, people will put me on this pedestal of this all-seeing, all-knowing kind of thing, kind of guy. And it's like, hey man, I had to figure it out just like you had to figure it out. This is my point of view, and you can agree. And we say it all the time, you know, it's in the title of the show. Don't take bullshit from fuckers. If you're listening to us and we sound like a fucker, turn the show off, you know, but we're not for you. And that's good. You know, we want people, Greg said it once where he was like, I want motherfuckers to want to die for me. Like, I don't want people wavering, you know, I want people to share an ideal, also have a relationship where you can have a healthy argument about something. You know, you're not always going to agree on stuff. And I think what's being lost nowadays is people think like, I'm on this side and you're on this side, and so obviously we can't be friends. And it's like, well, we're eroding as a culture. We're eroding. Why can't we just go, well, this is how you feel, this is how I think. We can still be copacetic. We can still have an understanding that this is where you stand, this is where I stand, whatever. And we want people to feel like they belong. But if you don't, well, then go away. Because I'm not gonna hang out. If you had a show, I didn't like it, I wouldn't continue to listen to it. You know, I wouldn't keep listening to your show to be like, these motherfuckers every week they say the same shit. When are they going to stop? We're never going to stop. This is fucking our point of view. But if you want to, you know, and with stand up, that's, I named my last album after my dad. Can't See Straight is a thing he would say before he would get abusive.
Oh
yeah, it's a joke, because a friend of mine asked me, he's like, do you have any material? He was doing like a quote unquote one-man show about child abuse, and he was like, do you have any jokes about your dad beating you up? And I was like, I don't. And he goes, can you think of any? And I was like, I mean, I guess so, I can try. But I started to think, all right, well, what's funny about being hit by your dad? And I remembered that he would always, whenever he'd get really mad, this eye would go lazy and sort of veer off. And I always thought that was really funny, because it made it look like the eye didn't want to be a witness to the child abuse.
It's like trying to like exit stage left, right?
The eye doesn't want to testify.
Yeah, it's like edging towards the door. Yeah.
And and it would always happen after his favorite phrase, which is, I'm so mad I can't even see straight. And then the eye would just sort of bob off. I'm like, you really can't.
That's unbelievable.
And so I named my album after him.
Yeah. Well, I like that your stuff is so real and so relevant, and you're so open about your own trauma and your dating and your relationships, and ultimately like you're using that to like help people and bring in like comedic relief and like I just think it's really cool. I do I have one more question. Are you okay on time?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Hand jobs.
I've given so many.
If you were dating someone or like hooking up with someone or casually or whatever, and she was like, I really want to give you a hand job. Is that like, would you want that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever gotten a good hand job?
Well, hand jobs always usually just lead to sex or blowjobs or something. I've found that it's, I mean.
Okay, I'm talking about a hand job to completion.
When I was in high school, I got a hand job to completion, I believe. But I was like, it was a girl touching my dick for the first time. So I was like, this is amazing.
Would you like want that like now, like in your 30s?
If that's gonna turn you on, like we're sitting there and you're like, I really want to give you a hand job, then yes, absolutely. I would just go, yeah, here, like, let's do this all the way to the end for sure. That's never happened. I don't think anyone's ever come to me and said that. But now I'm a little frustrated that that's never happened, because now I'm just hoping that the next girl I'm on a date with is like, it would be great. I think it would be
yeah. I think hand jobs are underrated. It's a skill I've really been working on. And I get
you've just been like asking random, hey man, hey, I've seen the outline in your pants. Can I give you a hand job? It's a test. I'm just working
for research. For research.
But it's interesting because I like posted this thing on TikTok. It went viral, and there's like obviously like lots of different comments and like, oh, demonstrate on me next time, or like, but then there's also like, what are you like 15? Like, why are you giving hand jobs? Like, no guy would ever want that because they've crafted that themselves for like so many years. Like, no woman could ever compare. But I think it's like kind of like, I think it's like, I don't know. I think there's so much other things than like blowjobs and penetration that can happen that can be really like, that can like turn me on and like maybe turn the guy on, and that like hasn't really happened, isn't common,
Yeah. Like I'm always down to do whatever, as long as like you're saying, well, I want to do this, or I want you to do this to me. Okay, great. Then I'll do that for sure. And the weird thing is, like, did you guys ever watch the show Get Shorty?
Mm-mm.
There's a scene where one of the dudes in it is Mormon and hasn't had sex. He's like in his 40s and he's a virgin. And there's one girl who's been sort of into him, was like, well, what do you do? And he goes, well, in the Mormon community, we'll just put it in but no movement. And
oh my gosh, Jared talks about that all the time.
We were talking about that. It's called like soaking or like docking or whatever.
Yeah. And then they show them doing it, and she's just like, yo, this is some like weird tantric shit. And her being so into it made me go, I want to do that. But I want someone who's going to be like, yeah, just don't move. Just sit there and don't move. And I would kind of love to see what would happen, like if anyone
would come,
if anyone orgasms from not moving, but you're like you're feeling each other, or like the idea of maybe like you're not moving but you're touching each other, like you're able to still like touch each other's bodies but not moving, because like your initial like a dog, almost like when a dog just starts humping the air, instinctively you're gonna start humping because you're like, fuck, I'm touching and I'm getting aroused. But like the whole idea is, don't you move. You can touch whatever you want, but don't fucking move your hips.
Are you soaked in all the way?
All the way.
Okay, I think that's really hot, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like, because like tantric sex isn't always touching or like sex at all. It's like sometimes it's just like energy, right? Yeah, I think that's so hot because it's like you want more and you're not getting it. And so right?
Yeah, you could also do like little micro things, like, you know, instead of like aggressively pulling hair, you just sort of hold on to it or tug it a little bit or whatever, like all those things that would be aggressive in that moment if you were having sex. And this time it's all a lot smaller. It's all a lot more subtle.
Okay, I have a question.
So I think the two of you need to do this and then report back to us how it went. So we put it in and we moved very little. There was a little hair tugging, but very tugging.
We'll write a review.
Gently.
We'll write a review.
Yeah.
Another TikTok should happen for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
That would be like maybe more OnlyFans, but like,
Sure.
For sure.
Is a vibrator allowed in like the soaking area?
Oh, what do you think?
I think that violates the rule of like, we're not going full out here. Like we're holding back.
But like, how good would that feel on your dick though?
It feels really good.
True.
I've had that done before. That feels really good. But what if, it's another subtlety where you have it near, like you can feel sort of like the vibrator sort of
like on your thigh instead,
on your thigh, or it's up near your clit or something, but you can feel the air sort of pushing, like the vibrator is pushing the air up rather than actually touching you. So it's still tantric, it's still within the rules. Yes. it's like when somebody has their finger near your face but they're not touching you. It's like, I feel like you're touching me though.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
No, totally. Okay, so we all need to end this now and go separately.
Well, by the way, Kane, just so you know, I heard like a new like development in the soaking like playbook that I had never heard before recently, which is that now apparently, and I think this like happens at like BYU, you know, like the big Mormon school or whatever, where so two people get together and they soak and they're not allowed to move because of Jesus or whatever. Right. But then
Jesus has just got binoculars.
Yeah, but then this is the like new level that's been added. They get their friend to like jump on the bed. And like somehow that's allowed.
Whoa.
That actually sounds really fun. Like for the friend.
Oh yeah, like jumping around them as they're just like, hey, all right, relax.
That would be great. Like that, I wonder if there's like, could you go on like Craigslist at BYU and be like, I'll jump on your bed, man. Like, you know,
$100 an hour.
Yeah, like give me $20 or like, you know, a pizza and like, you know, and then just to be really aggressive about it, be like, you like that, huh?
You get into their face like a coach.
Yeah.
Well, Kane, this has been awesome.
Oh yes, this is fun.
Please like tell our audience like everywhere to find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Kane Holloway, KaneHolloway, and then you could find the show. If you're looking for the podcast right now, you can type into the search engine DTBFF or DTBFF podcast, and it'll be the first thing that pops up, because the title "Don't Take Bullshit from Fuckers" is really long, and so if you're looking for it, the abbreviation of it is there. You can also follow the show on Instagram at DTBFF podcast, and the link for the show will be there. And I think the link is in my link tree, and it's also on kaneholloway.com. And I have my comedy album Can't See Straight. It's everywhere, Spotify, iTunes. And I also converted it into a special, so you can watch for free on my YouTube channel. And I renamed it the 2 Jacket Special because I had 2 different sets that I molded into 1 hour, but I changed jackets for some reason. So the first half hour is me in a blue jacket, and the last half hour is me in a red jacket. So it's called the 2 Jacket Special, but it's the same material.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. We love you. When you get to LA, like, let's get together.
Absolutely.
And I really hope
for hanging out or for soaking.
Well, I was gonna say, I hope you get your hand job and your soaking soon.
That'd be great. Yeah, that would be great. You too. Everybody, I hope everyone gets out there, both you guys and your listening audience. Everyone gets a hand job or gives a hand job and soaks. Let's
do it.
Yeah.
2022 hand jobs.
The year of soaking.
Fantastic.
All right, Kane, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.